Okay, for those of you out there who may have seen or have not seen this lantern device yet, which is the establishment of a network of information, global information sharing called the Outernet, as opposed to the Internet, which apparently the Internet, in my speculation, was initially has backfired on the global elites and is obviously not serving their best interest anymore because everyone is having open access to information. So that has obviously failed their objectives. So now it's time for Plan B, since now we are going to implement the Outernet, I'm going to attach the links since I don't have a screencast option. I'm going to attach the links into the description of this video to the Indiegogo funding campaign. There's some short little videos, but I'm going to cover some of these things that apparently most people aren't able to easily discern and to visibly point out. So the first most obvious is this Outernet. Upcoming installations. Outernet has been commissioned by the World Bank to install hardware in South Sudan across several cities, providing free information access to millions. The World Bank will also be sponsoring content to be delivered by Outernet. This project will begin in early 2015. For those that are not aware of the World Bank is literally owned by the elite families, by the very few among us, by the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, and the Morgans. And the World Bank is World Bank and the IMF, same with the UN. All of these are Zionist global elite organizations. They are intending to establish this one World Bank, in case somehow you haven't gotten the message yet, and also the one world government to go along with it. But okay, so obvious flags to be addressed, and this whole thing needs to be dissected by a lot better techies than I am. I'm not a techie in any sense, but if I had the skills to go into and look deeper into some of these links here, I would definitely do so, especially the backgrounds of these CEOs and who they are, who they're connected to, and who is funding this whole thing. But okay, so back to this campaign, this Outernet campaign, which has already reached its funding goal of 260,000, but their aim goal is 10 million. We did it! We reached our goal of 200,000. Now let's hit 10 million. Okay, so they tell us that this is global access to the web's best content, anonymous, uncensored, free, Outernet. See, these are the labels that they will use, that they will tell you in order to get this stuff up and running, to get it implemented. But then, once it's up and running, then they'll change their minds. Sorry, we lied, which is what they always do. Okay, this is pure Illuminati symbolism at work, right in plain sight, in order to implement this Outernet. Okay, so they want to launch a CubeSat grid, or a CubeSat constellation into the orbit. And CubeSat, that's not very obvious. For those of us that know our symbolism and know about the cult of Saturn and the black cube of Saturn, which is everywhere, the black cube of the Kaaba stone of Mecca, the black cubes all over these major corporations. The cube of Apple, the Apple Store is the cube, Sega Saturn, Nintendo GameCube, etc., etc. Just do your research, look up the cube of Saturn, the black cube that the Orthodox Jews wear on their foreheads, on and on and on. The black cube of Saturn, the Allspark cube, It's everywhere you look. So they want to launch this CubeSat grid. Are you kidding me? It's not obvious. Who's going to authorize these black cubes of Saturn to be launched into orbit? The people? Fuck no. NASA is going to authorize the launches of the cubes of Saturn into the orbit. It's funded and sponsored by the World Bank. Hello, the World Bank. Look at the sponsors. And next. So they are foretelling a global catastrophe to wipe out internet and cell networks and replacing it with this new one world indoctrination CubeSatellite grid. So what happened, quote, and I'm going to quote from the article, what happens when the next Hurricane Katrina or Hurricane Sandy deploys or destroys cellular networks? In times of natural disaster or conflict, Outernet still works and will prioritize disaster updates. No one should face crisis without access to updated information. With Lantern, continuously updated information is always available. Quote unquote. Outernet downloads the files it will transmit. The files are stripped of any broken links, aka all information that is not relevant or destructive to the elite's agenda, and reformatted into its bare bones versions of the originals and then sent to its servers. So in other words, this is not uncensored content. This is purely censored because Outernet downloads the files that it chooses acceptable and deems appropriate to be common knowledge worldwide. So Outernet determines what files will be transmitted. Outernet strips those files to their bare bones versions of the originals, aka they are stripping anything not desired and then sent to its servers. This is the new face of mass media worldwide. And plus the network is slow as piss, so who's going to want to use a network that downloads it's capable of downloading 2 megabytes a day? That's worthless. Where do I even start breaking this down? Let's look at the logos of these sponsors. We're going to look at the logos. Okay, you've got Clyde Space, which their logo is the logo of Saturn with the cube of Saturn orbiting the rings of Saturn. You've got R&W, which is the Illuminati colors of the red and the blue, which is astrotheology, the winter and the summer, the Republican, the Democrat, the left and the right, the day and the night, the dual aspects, the black and the white aspects of the color symbolism of the Illuminati, the red and the blue. Look at it everywhere. It's in the Pepsi logos. It's on all the flags. It's everywhere. It's the red pill versus the blue pill, the right wing versus the left wing. It's the old duality, and it's the problem, reaction, solution. That's what is going on here. They are showing you, they're foreshadowing this global catastrophe that's going to wipe out the cellular network. So they want to implement this Outernet in place to have a new internet system up and running, which is purely controlled by the World Bank and purely controls what information gets out to the people. And they're open sourcing this so anyone can have access to be able to build one of these lantern, which is in the lantern devices, which is in the shape of the black monolith of 2001, the black moon Lilith, monolith, moon of Lilith, black moon Lilith, the black cube symbolism, the black monolith from 2001, Space Odyssey. So it's in the very shape itself, if that's not obvious enough of a dead giveaway. But so they want everyone to have open source access to be able to build one of these. They obviously want everyone to have one, and it's under the guise of places that have never had access to open information ever before in history now have access to libraries, media, news, information. So in other words, they want the poorest countries, not just the United States, to be indoctrinated with the mass media, the lies, the propaganda, and the bullshit, the false flags. They want the world to be able to have access to this information. They want the poorest country, the poorest people in Africa and in India, the most rural cultures, to be able to have access to the indoctrination, to the propaganda. And so that's why they're pushing so hard for this to be implemented on a global scale. And so while it's obviously very crucial and important, and I completely couldn't agree more, that what the world needs most is unlimited access to free, abundant, uncensored information, that is not what this actually is. If you read between the lines here, if you look deeper into the symbols, into what read between the lines here, it's right in front of your face. This is not going to be uncensored and unlimited free access to information, which is what the world really does need. As well as these poor countries what they need is they need access to free food, clean water, shelter, housing, the basic essentials for life. They're sitting there starving with no access to free food, but they're going to have unlimited free access to Kim Kardashian's ass and frickin' Lady Gaga. How is new content requested? Currently, there are several different ways users can request new content from Outernet. Facebook. Users with access to data and internet can post requests on Outernet's Facebook wall. Oh, so Facebook is how we determine what content gets uploaded to Outernet. Facebook Zero. Those with data access can use Facebook Zero, a plain text version of the original. You can text message our plans for the content that we want uploaded to Outernet. How we decide what gets broadcast. The core archive is a collection of content selected by Outernet because of its importance to humanity. This will include news, educational content, indoctrination, propaganda, and disaster updates. Which is double speak for fear-mongering, for more fear-mongering, just like Fox News. It's no different. When applicable, it is publicly viewable, dynamically edited, in other words, completely manipulated, completely green screen, false flag actors, the whole lot, the whole dynamically edited and subject to continuous discussion and review. Yeah, okay. We are currently compiling a first draft of the core archive, which we will publish in November. Here's a sample of what it will include.
In the course of your lifetime, how much information have you consumed? From educational material to entertainment, music, art, news. What if all of that was just gone? What if the internet did not exist? Can we even comprehend our lives today without this wealth of information? In 2012, just 35.5% of people on Earth had access to the internet. That means nearly 2/3 of humanity could not enter this enormous library. Let's think of it another way. Take the entire population of North America, South America, Europe, and Oceania, 4 continents, and let's throw in Indonesia, Japan, and both Koreas. Now, double it. That many people in the dark, spread out across the world. Now imagine if tomorrow, the lights came on. What if there were a way to broadcast the most valuable information from the web to the entire world from space for free? Any language, any format, available everywhere. What would people choose? What would people read about if their governments no longer deprive them of their right to free information? How many dark patches of our history could have been avoided if we had just known more? How many can we avoid in the future? What would that world look like? What new inventions could be created or diseases cured? What could our species accomplish? There are inflection points in our history that change humanity's course forever. Universal information access is one such event. What if there were a library in every village? A library in every home? A library in every pocket? Can you even imagine that world? You no longer need to just imagine. Outernet.